Welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about life, relationships, and being human. I'm Sean Slevin, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you have a question for me, you can send that to me anonymously at asksean.org. So I was thinking today about a conversation I had with a client recently. We were talking about just the various kinds of kind of deaths that happen in life. Kind of these sort of symbolic transitions and losses, and just kind of reflecting on how, like, the way that we approach all of these smaller deaths has a lot to do with then how we approach our final death, how we approach physical death, our ending our time in this world, and that just got me thinking about kind of a principle of die early and die often. And I don't mean this to say like we should lead short lives or anything, but I'm playing here with kind of other phrases. You may have heard the phrase, fail early, fail often. It's kind of a similar principle. There's also something in kind of the digital world, like in programming and kind of various tech industries, about ship early and ship often. Ship meaning as in deliver the product early and often. So it's like, instead of waiting for the product to be totally perfect, get the software, get an update pushed out, which is also why sometimes you download an update for your app or something, and then it's like, oh, there's all sorts of bugs in this, because it's like there's things that haven't been caught. But the principle there is, like, keep iterating, keep moving, keep living, keep doing. And so I think the same thing here in terms of death. Like, we have a tendency in our culture to run from death in all its forms. I mean, even how we handle physical death and how we handle funerals and all of that, we try to sanitize it. We try to take the pain out of it. And this is understandable because these are hard things, but there is always going to be death. There's going to be physical death. There's going to be all of these symbolic deaths. One of the things, like, one of my clients was talking about is they're realizing, like, their kids are going to be moving out soon. And while that's exciting, and that was the whole point, it's also scary. It's vulnerable. There's a loss there. It's like, we're coming to the end of a stage. And so I think it is better for us to lean into these things. I think it is better for us to face the pain, to face it directly, to be honest about it, to feel the grief, to feel whatever angst, whatever kinds of emotions we need to feel, and to move through it. To die early and die often, to not avoid this. Because here's the thing, if we avoid it, if we keep trying to kick that can down the road, if we keep trying to pretend as though there isn't pain there, it just builds up. And either we're going to end up coping in some kind of unhealthy way that's going to cost us and cost our relationships potentially, or we're just going to have this sort of explosion of pain and some kind of, like, later moment. I mean, sometimes this is what happens for people when a parent whom they have had a fraught relationship with, when that parent finally dies, sometimes there can be like an explosion of unfaced pain, and it can just wreck the person. I'm not saying the death of a parent is ever going to be easy, whether it's a good relationship or a poor relationship, but, like, there's so much benefit to doing the uncomfortable work of, I'm gonna grieve this along the way. I'm going to be facing this. I want to face and engage with as much as I can along the way. I don't want to leave anything for later that I could be metabolizing now, that I could be helping heal now. Now, part of that is just, that's a way of loving my future self, right? But also it's a way of loving my past self and my present self. Because if you've been following me, you've heard me say in other videos, like, when we ignore pain, we're ignoring parts of ourself. Like, that hurts us. Like, that's abandoning parts of us. That's saying to a part of us that might be, bleeding, of like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about you. Like, tough cookies. right? Like I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to pretend you don't exist. Like that's a horrible thing. That's a cruel thing. And it's also understandable that we all are prone to doing that to varying degrees, but I just want to invite each of us to be brave and to turn towards those places, turn towards those parts. Don't be afraid of death, but I mean, of course we're going to be afraid of it. It's painful, it's painful. It's scary. Loss hurts. We don't know what's on the other side of it. Like in terms of even symbolic deaths, in terms of, literal physical death. If you are in a faith system, a belief system, like such as I am, like I believe there is life after death. I believe that this is just the beginning. So, for me, it's not a physical death. It's not a final thing, but yet it still is an awful, yucky thing. It's still scary. It's still painful. It still fucking hurts, And so it's like, even in the context of a faith system, there's the gift there of like, okay, there's not a finality, but it's still a transition. It's still difficult. It still has to be leaned into. We still have difficult things to feel. And so whatever your context is, right? And whether you've got physical death, kind of approaching, whether your own or someone you love, or, just the bazillions of like itty bitty and then, larger symbolic deaths that we all experience, to varying degrees all the time. I mean, I just had a random thing. This is a tiny thing, but it's a little death where a technological thing that I depend on, for various daily things, like it broke, and I am having to manage without it for the week until a replacement part comes in. That's a small death, certainly. Like, that's not on the magnitude of so many other things and so many other things that I have, grieved and felt the pain of. But it is a kind of death. It is a kind of inconvenience, a kind of loss, a kind of and it was a little unsettling because I had to think through, like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to manage? Because I depend on this piece of technological infrastructure for various things and for my work. And so I had to metabolize the little bit of feelings that I had about that, and brainstorm of like, how do I navigate this, this tiny loss, this little itty bitty loss, if you will. And so, I want to invite you to be brave, even though it's scary, even though it's uncomfortable. Turn towards those little and big losses, little and big deaths in your life. And, try to die early and often so that you're not abandoning any parts of you. They're not leaving any parts of you behind. And so that you are looking out for future you, who will be so grateful that you didn't just push all of this, kick the can down the road perpetually, leaving future you to like just be totally overwhelmed and, kind of massively, kind of undone by all that you've been avoiding. But instead, just little by little, try to turn towards the hard things. Try to do what you can in the here and now to feel the pain, feel the sorrow, feel the sadness. Share it with people you trust, and seek to bear it as well as you can. So, well, until next time, peace be with you.